Order. That ends the period for oral questions. We will now move on to topical questions, and I call Mr Sam Gardner. Mr Gardner.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. Question number 1. Oh, sorry. My apologies. Could I ask the Deputy First Minister, if he's taken the questions, to confirm that the issue being dealt with by Dr Haas are at Stand 1 issues?
Well, the issues being dealt with by Dr Haas are very clearly on the public record. They are about dealing with the issue of parades, flags and the past. And whatever strand people want to put them in is of no relevance to me, or I think should be of any relevance to anybody else. These are issues that affect us here in the context of the here and now, and they come about as a result of what has been, I think, a very damaging year, where we clearly have seen elements like the Ulster Volunteer Force and elements of the Orange Order in North Belfast and in other parts of Belfast fomenting conflict on the streets. And it's conflict that has to be unreservedly condemned, alongside the activities of so-called Republican groups who have no support in the community and who, in the course of this week, have been involved in trying to create mayhem on the streets. Well, the answer to all of them is that it isn't going to work. Yes, we need solutions to parades, we need solutions to flags, and we need a solution to the past. And I think that it's incumbent upon all of us to do everything in our power to try and find solutions to these problems. Because if we don't find solutions to the problems, all we do is leave openings for those who wish to exploit their agenda, which is clearly an anti-assembly agenda, it's an anti-executive agenda, it's an anti-peace process agenda. So I think what we have to do is that we have to do our jobs as politicians, come up with results, whilst at the same time giving our wholehearted support to the police as they combat the lawbreakers.
Mr Gardner for supplementary.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker, and thank the Deputy First Minister for his answer. But can the Deputy First Minister confirm that the Dublin Government will not be involved in the Haas processes?
Well, I think Richard Haas, during the course of his stewardship of the process, and remember, he was charged with the responsibility to do this job by the 5 major parties in this Assembly. We were the people, collectively, against all odds, agreed who the independent chair would be. And as a result of the responsibilities that he has been given, he finds himself having to speak, obviously, to the panel that has been established here, representing the 5 main parties, but also to the British government and to the Irish government. And I think that there's very few people in this House that would expect that he would, move forward with what is a very onerous task against the backdrop of not speaking to both the Irish government and the British government. As well as that, I think we're all very conscious that the White House has taken a very keen interest in this. Richard Haas has met with the highest level of the administration. He's met with Joe Biden. Myself and the First Minister both took phone calls from the Vice President, and they are retaining a very keen interest in this. So there's a lot of interest in what is happening, and it's, I think, very appropriate that both the US administration, the Irish government and the British government have their say in relation to all of it. At the end of the day, the decision-making process will be one of huge responsibility for the parties in this Assembly.
Call Mr Thomas Buchanan for a topical question.
Deputy Speaker, and perhaps I should declare not just been a member of the Orange Order, which I'm proud of. Would the Deputy First Minister agree with me that it is now time for all those involved in terrorist and criminal activity to come clean about their past?
Well, the past has been dealt with in the context of the Haas talks, and it's an element that obviously creates a lot of pain for people who were victims during the course of the conflict. And of course we've seen in recent television programmes, not least being the latest programme done by Panorama, that there's no moral high ground, I think, for anybody in relation to all of this. I mean, there are many people in this House who supported these activities. There are many people in opposite benches who supported these groups and these activities. And I think that what we have to do is recognise that the reason that we're in the situation that we're in today is because we have seen conflict on the streets over the course of the last year. We have seen an agenda headed up by a paramilitary organisation, the Ulster Volunteer Force, people that I have challenged, both publicly and privately, about their activities. And what we need to do is get a resolution to the challenges posed, not just by the UVF, but these so-called Republican groups who are living in cloud cuckoo land, who are living a little cocoon, totally detached from the reality of where people's lives are. And in relation to how we deal with the past, as John Dunlop, I think, rightly put it on Sunday Sequence last Sunday, how we cope with the past. That does represent a real challenge, but it doesn't just represent a challenge, folks, for Republicans. It represents a challenge for everybody, including the British government.
Order. Before calling Mr Buchanan for a supplementary, I have to remind members, please, no shouting from a sedentary position. I just will not tolerate it. Continue.
Okay, can I, again, and following on, can I ask the Deputy First Minister, does he believe that his party leader, Gerry Adams, was not a member of the IRA, despite all the evidence from other witnesses to the contrary?
Well, I'm on the public record that I was a member of the IRA. It didn't do me any harm getting elected in Mid-Ulster. The people of South Derry and East Tyrone, whenever they made a decision to make me their MP in 1997, did so because they believed I was absolutely committed to building a peace process, because they wanted peace, and they saw my contribution to that as being an important contribution. I hope I've made an important contribution. And I think those people who make the argument that you can't further contribute to society in a meaningful way because you were a member of the IRA in the past are making a huge mistake. They're making a huge mistake. It's irrelevant. That's totally irrelevant. We have, in my opinion, Father Alec Reid, who died recently, made a massive contribution to peace in this country. Gerry Adams made a massive contribution to peace in this country. And working with John Hume made a massive contribution to peace in this country. Sometimes it's probably now and again worth asking the question from some of the most negative elements who try to use these situations against the peace process. What contribution have they made?
Call Mr Mitchell McLaughlin for a topical question.
Thank you. Can I ask the Deputy First Minister for an update in regard to the soft market testing of Shackleton Barracks?
Well, the soft market testing exercise commenced on the 18th of November, and this will be of great interest to the Deputy Speaker. And it will be completed by the end of January 2014. After the level of interest is determined, a decision will be taken as to the suitability to go forward with development plans. Officials have, on an ongoing basis, met with local landowners, the local council and community groups to inform them of the position in relation to the site and to listen to their views. It would be the intention to continue with this dialogue as we move forward. So all parties have expressed an interest in the Shackleton Barracks site to OFMDFM or BTW Shields, including local farmers and resident groups. They were sent details of the expressions of interest process on Thursday, the 14th of November.
Call Mr McLaughlin for supplementary.
And given what some might see, and I thank the Deputy First Minister for that update, given what some might perceive as a conflict of interest between, say, local entrepreneurial interests and the stated intention of the Minister for Agriculture and Rural Development to decentralise her department, Can the Deputy First Minister indicate whether he believes both sets of ambitions can be accommodated on this site?
Well, I think that the simple answer to the member's question is absolutely yes. We recognise that value for the site is not just monetary but economic and social, and while continuing to explore sale of the site, we've not lost sight of the other local needs. Let me also point out that one of the greatest needs in the North West is for employment and decentralisation of the Department of Agriculture and Rural Development headquarters, and that has the potential to create not just employment but also be part of the local economic regeneration of the area. And I think, given those two positions, I believe that the further development of the Shackleton site offers great potential for all concerned. This is a site that I am increasingly excited about, and I think the decision by DARD, supported by the Executive, to relocate to Shackleton Barracks has created a focus for other interests, and we are now getting very serious expressions of interest. This is an absolutely massive site, which I think can cater for the needs of not just DARD, but other interests, including the interests of the local community.
Call Mr Basil McCrae for a topical question.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Would the First and Deputy First Minister's Office support the devolving of more economic powers to the Northern Ireland Assembly, given that Westminster is currently considering this for other regional assemblies?
Well, I think that one of the most important powers that we're seeking, which the member and other members will be well aware of, is the power to devolve corporation tax, which we estimate, if we can get that, particularly against the background of the very positive answers I've given on foreign direct investment in the course of this question and answer session, could lead to the creation of a further something like 58,000 new jobs. So that is absolutely crucial for us, and we think we're making progress. Obviously, the British Prime Minister has decided that he won't make a decision on this until such times as the Scottish referendum is out of the way. And I think there will be various opinions in the Assembly about further powers. Some parties here are for a lot of new powers to be given to the Assembly. Others, I think, have concerns, and some of the concerns might be political as well as not just financial. And I think all of this, I think, can be resolved through a process of dialogue and discussion and agreement between us. The key job of work to be done in the next very short while is obviously corporation tax, and if we can achieve that one, it will be a massive step forward for us in terms of our administration.
Mr McCrae for supplementary.
Further to that answer, Minister, would you support the creation of a commission on devolution similar to the Silk Commission to investigate the possibility of devolving more powers to see what would be advantageous and what would not be advantageous and what could command support?
Well, I think the member and all members know that question time to the Office of First and Deputy First Minister, I'm answering as best I can, as I know the First Minister does whenever he's asked questions. We try to answer for the both of us. So I think that from my perspective, that's certainly something that can be considered. I wouldn't be opposed to it, but I would like to come to a position on that in the aftermath of having a discussion with the First Minister, and ultimately, if we were to proceed along that route, with other members of the Executive to get their agreement.
Call Mr Alban McGuinness for topical question.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. Given the fact that there will be a march on Saturday in the centre of Belfast, which again will disrupt business, etc., would the Deputy First Minister agree with me that these people have made their point in relation to flags and they should desist from future demonstrations and, if possible, enter into the Haas process where they could make their points more effectively?
Well, I absolutely agree that it's a responsibility of everybody involved in this to recognise the importance of discussion and dialogue. I do think people have made their point. and I note with interest that the media are now exercised about who is actually organising the parade on Saturday. I don't have any doubt as to who's organising this parade. This parade has been organised by the UVF and has been supported by elements within the Orange Order. And I think there clearly is a responsibility on the Progressive Unionist Party, as they call themselves, to recognise the damage that can be done if these protests continue. Yes, I think people have made their point, but the main point to be made is that they have a duty to face up to the concerns being expressed on a consistent basis by the business community in Belfast about how damaging these protests can be. Now, I come from a society that believes people have the right to protest, but in protesting, people have to take decisions as to whether or not that protest is going to contribute to a resolution or an exacerbation of the problem. And I think ongoing protests of this nature, particularly if the main people behind them are the likes of the UVF, are very worrying indeed.
Order. Time is up. Order. We must